Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for the Buckhead Business Radio Show.
Well, welcome to Buckhead Business Radio. Rich Casanova here, your host for today's episode. Actually, this is pretty exciting. This has been in the works for a little while. This is a special pilot episode, and with the hopes we'll do a couple more of these and see if it gets some traction for maybe a regular series. And it's we're entitled Georgia Food and Beverage Radio, which is obviously, everybody's got to eat, right? At least, hopefully, 3 times a day or more. And so a big part of everyone's life, and the industry is enormous throughout the U.S. We're going to be focusing on the market here in Georgia. And we have a great panel of experts here, a little different format. We're going to tee up each person, do a little background about their business entity and organization, and then hopefully jump right into a roundtable discussion. And briefly, we'll just say hi to each of the folks in the studio. So we have David, Adrian. Is that close? Did I get it or close enough?
That's close enough.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. So, and you're here with what organization? Yeah.
The Atlanta Food Service Expo.
Right.
We launched the show last year.
Right.
And we'll be holding it annually here in Atlanta, obviously, focused on Georgia and the surrounding states.
Great. We look forward to hearing about that. The first one's the toughest, so it's easy. It's an easy breeze from here on out, right? Yeah. So it must have been great. You're doing a second year. We have Stephanie Everett joining us in the studio. You also work with David, right?
Yes.
And what's your what are you doing to change the world over there for the expo?
Well, it is my baby, so to speak, and
All
making
right.
sure that everything happens and gets delivered, listen to the industry. So have worked with these great people in this room that you're about to talk with, and looking forward to just delivering the best event and bringing the food service industry together here in Atlanta.
Well, just the conversations we've had, and you've been instrumental in putting all the folks here and helping make this show possible. So I have no doubt if you can handle that, it's going to be a great expo. And next up in the studio, we have Mark Haiti. And Mark, what are you up to these days?
Well, I got a couple things going on, Rich. I've got a business called Sift It, which is a technology company that helps restaurants, helps independent restaurants purchase and manage their back of house with their suppliers.
Right.
And also happen to have a couple restaurants with a business partner of mine called Taqueria, which is a Korean-Mexican fusion restaurant. We just opened our second location, and that's been plenty to do this summer.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It keeps you got a plate full, so to speak, whatever, yeah. And, I went to your Twitter account, so you have some business in Houston, some people using your service there for Sift It, right?
Yeah, we're
in
Atlanta, Texas, Florida, and moving into the Baltimore, D.C. area.
Nice. We'll be hearing more about that. And also joining in the studio is Archana Becker, right? And how are you this morning?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. And what are you cooking up these days?
We are just, we have one restaurant that's about 11 years old.
Wow.
And then one is almost 2 years old or 1.5 years old.
They say the toughest is the first 3 years, right? Once you knock that out. Yeah, it's not always easy.
On
but
the first one, it's, the first 3 years.
Yeah. So the second one, you're going to do.
Second one's not as bad.
Right. And finally, also joining us in the studio is Karen Bremer, and you're with the Georgia Restaurant Association. Welcome to the show.
It's good to be here.
Absolutely, yeah. So what do y'all do over there in a quick snapshot? Obviously, we're going to hear a little bit more, but for our listeners who may not be familiar with the organization, what's your mission?
Our primary responsibility is to advocate for the restaurant industry. The restaurant industry here in Georgia is the second largest private sector employer, employing over 400,000 people in 16,000 locations. So as you said, everybody eats 3 times a day. The average adult eats out 7 times a week.
Wow.
In the United States. And our primary responsibility is to make sure that our elected officials understand what's facing small business, because most restaurants are small businesses, and when we are not able to avert some sort of disaster, then our responsibility is to make sure that we educate our members on how to comply and how to deal with certain legislative issues.
Cool. So 7 times a day, or 7 times a week, right? A day eats out, yeah. So I think I probably eat out between lunches and grabbing some morning breakfast or whatever. So I'm probably above average, I'm believing, or whatever.
Probably,
Yeah. So cool. So so how many people did you talk about you employ or represent just in Georgia?
Yeah, the restaurant industry in Georgia is 405,000 people.
Wow.
Which is 10% of the workforce, private sector workforce.
1 out of 10 people are involved in y'all's industry.
Correct.
Well, this is a no-brainer for a show. I guess we had something going right, yeah. And also joining us in the studio, welcome to the show, Josh. You're with U.S. Foods.
That's correct. Thank you.
All right. And so tell us, folks not familiar with U.S. Foods, I mean, everybody in the industry is, but so what's your role there in a brief snapshot? Because we're going to come around and do a full interview in a minute.
Okay, great. I'm a director of sales support, and we're a broadline distributor across the nation. And what I do is basically air traffic control, for lack of a better term.
Nice.
So I work between the marketing teams and the sales team and make sure all of our sales support people are put in the right place.
Or food traffic control, right?
Yeah,
I like that.
even better. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I love that because you can wrap your head around that description, whatever. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the show underway here and start with our first guest, and which is actually a lot of these folks are tied to in one form or another. Obviously, the Georgia Restaurant Association being a sponsor of this great event coming up, which Dave's going to talk to us about. So, David, you're president, co-owner of Exposition Development Company. So what does that look like and sound like? Yeah.
Well, our business, Stephanie and I are partners in it. We produce trade shows in a number of industries. Historically, 20 years ago, I was involved in a food service show in Texas and got, in fact, it was my very first trade show 20 odd years ago. And having, like most people, in fact, I think 2 out of 3 people in America have worked in the food service industry at one point or another. So most of us have been involved in it. And I actually have a father and grandfather that were in the supply side of it.
Wow.
So always had a soft spot for the food service industry. Ended up in Atlanta back in late '05 and had visited what was a precursor to the show that had run through the 90s, and found out that the show had gone away. One of the many recessions that has hit this industry and hit the country had killed off the old show, and there hadn't been one for a dozen years. We got to know Karen and at the Georgia Restaurant Association, and with further discussions with her board, and we decided it was time to bring a show back here to Georgia. And we also have the support of the Georgia Hotel Lodging Association, the American Culinary Federation Association of Chefs, as well as terrific board of advisory council made of people like Akshna that have helped us to create a show for the industry. And that's the whole goal. Trade shows are about bringing buyers and sellers together.
Right.
And just like you have in this room, you've got a microcosm of the industry here. You've got the association representing the industry. You've got some people that are running restaurants successfully and doing their best to expand on that. And then you've got the supply side as well that bring goods and services to them. Trade shows are about not only bringing buyers and sellers together, but they're looking for, anybody coming to a trade show is looking for new products, they're looking for new suppliers, they're looking for new services, they're looking to be educated on how to improve their business. And so what we focus on is how do we bring a good mix of suppliers together, how do we market that to the restaurant industry to show that there's a value for them to come and spend the day visiting the show, attending some of the seminars we put on, the special events that we put on, so that we can actually give them takeaways that give them value as they leave.
Yeah, give us a taste, if you will. There's going to be so many puns on this show, whatever. I'm just going to warn you right up front. For legal reasons, we have to state that. Yeah. So talking about this event for 2014, we'll, in each of our segments, as we come around to you, we'll invite you to tell our listeners the best way to get back in touch and find out more about your organization, your restaurant, your establishment, what have you. So we'll do that as well in a minute. David or Dave? David, okay, yeah. So education. So obviously networking is a big part of this, but tell us, giving you a little teaser on what folks might expect as exhibitors and as attendees in terms of education for the industry.
Well, there's two parts of it, really. First of all, finding new products. This is a very innovative industry. You'll find everything from technology products that I know Mark will talk a little bit about in a minute, to basic food and beverage products that are new. We were just talking outside about all the new vodkas that appear every time you turn around a corner. There's another vodka, there's another alcohol of some sort, another beer, lots and lots of beer.
Is this a sample you brought? No, that's bottled water. Yeah,
afraid I didn't bring the vodka.
And no samples. Okay, this show's over now. Yeah, all these food people, well, I guess it's a little early, but yeah. So next time, yeah. So I'm sorry, interrupt you.
And Stephanie can talk a little bit more about the educational content, the seminars we put on. We run 3 tracks throughout the show with a wide variety of different content to help as Karen mentioned, this is an industry of small business people.
Right.
And so the more we can provide them in terms of tools that will enable them to improve their business, the greater level of success they will have with their business.
And who are the like typical exhibitors? I mean, obviously restaurants, and then what scale and scope from like a single operator up to how many, and then beyond restaurants, who else is?
The exhibitors are on the supply side. The attendees are the restaurant operators.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So Archana and Mark, with their restaurant hats on, will be attending. They'll be looking
scoping
at
out all the
new suppliers, new products, new equipment.
Okay.
What we like to talk about is how you should be able to take an empty building and fill it with everything you need to run a restaurant from our show. So everything from furnishings to equipment to technology to food and beverage. The
back office
distributors, back office. We even have legal firms there.
Well, we just did a show this morning, Atlanta Legal Experts, at 8:00 this morning, and that's obviously a big topic. Is every industry then is the legalities and the laws touch each industry. So you'll have some folks there talking about the do's and don'ts or the latest updates on regulations of the industry and what have you. Or?
There'll be some of that certainly, and the Georgia Restaurant Association does a great job of keeping its members up to date with because there are obviously a lot of legal changes and a lot of legal pitfalls.
Yeah, and if you're running a restaurant, you barely have time to keep work with the customers and your employees, and so it's nice to have an association that represents you but also informs and educates you as well. We'll be hearing from Karen about that. So tell us about the exhibit hall and where it's held and how many you expect attendees and exhibitors, or what's some numbers?
We run the show at the Georgia World Congress Center.
Wow.
In fact, they helped us to get it launched, as did the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau. The city's been very instrumental in helping work with us to get the show going. The show runs the Monday and Tuesday, October 13 and 14. From 10 to 6 each day. In fact, we finish each day with a bit of a happy hour reception.
Nice.
It is a trade-only show, so only people in the food service hospitality business are able to register and attend the show. Restaurant operators, food service operators are able to register for free if they're members of one of the supporting associations. They get them free registration.
Yeah. So again, not a show, not a food show open to the public with celebrity chefs and all sorts of stuff going on, like the so industry exclusive, but then so we're helping to kind of get the word out and through this message of people that may not be familiar with it as well. So cool. So so how can an event like this, I mean an expo, provide value to local industry?
Well, trade shows have proven, trade shows have been around for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And the reality is that a trade show is the best way for people, suppliers and buyers, to get together, because you can use the internet to research product, whatever, but you can't taste a piece of food.
Right.
You can't weigh a saucepan. You can't touch a fabric on a chef jacket. You can't do any of those things on the internet. What you can do is research, and then a trade show enables you as a buyer to actually touch it, taste it, feel it, drink it, and really get a feel for the product that you can't get any other way. And some companies can literally just send you a sample in the mail, but you can't send a sample oven. You can't send a sample cooked chicken, that sort of thing. So it's trade shows provide that opportunity. And as a buyer, typically also, even if you're a big enough buyer that the suppliers will come to you, the reality is you may not want to spend that much time seeing people one-on-one. Whereas in a trade show with a couple of hundred suppliers in one place at one time, I could go in as a buyer and spend a half a day and see literally dozens of different products, dozens of different suppliers, all at one time, take the time I need, and get the best value for my time.
Absolutely. Talk about leverage or condensing, and also the face-to-face. I mean, that's an obvious with networking, but there's a certain dynamic when you've met some of these folks from LinkedIn or different groups, whatever, and you've heard about their widget or their offering, but there's nothing like you said. And until Apple can come up with and deliver food over your phone or whatever, then I think you guys are good or whatever, right? Yeah, so probably not in our lifetime maybe. But okay, so we're going to come back to David, our roundtable discussion, and hopefully some folks will have some questions for him as well. So Stephanie, let's chime in here real quickly with you. And again, thank you for all your efforts behind the scenes in making this happen. If I could afford you, I would probably hire you for all of our shows.
Well, thank you, Rich. I appreciate that. I believe David covered most of it, but I will chime in just a little bit on the education topics. And from all the discussions that I've had with the council and the different groups over the last year that one of the most important components of this program is the education that we can provide to the local food service industry. And what's great about the majority of our programming is that it is included with the registration fee, or if you are one of the members of the supporting associations, it's free
Wow.
entirely.
Wow.
And these range from recruitment and retention strategies, marketing topics. We have several panel discussions of local operators ranging from technology to a women's leadership panel, which Archana is actually going to be part of as well. And so it is just a great, great way for local operators to invest in their team and their management without really spending a fortune. It really is, the investment is really just a few hours away from the office to come down, learn, and then on top of it, you get this great exhibit hall. We should have around 180 exhibitors
Wow.
this time around, all these different supplies, as well as the networking, the happy hour receptions, the after evening events. So it's just a great way for the industry to come together.
You had me at happy hour, whatever you have. But, we're going to go on to Karen, but before we do and come back to y'all, tell our listeners what's the best way to kind of find out about this event and the expo. And
Just go to our website, atlantafoodserviceexpo.com, and everything is there, easy.
they can register, find out all the schedules and who's who and all that good stuff. But they can't sample any food at the website. Am I right?
Nope.
Yes or yes?
Oh, they've got to come to the show for that.
Nice. All right, so up next on our show, we have Karen Bremer, and you're the Executive Director of the Georgia Restaurant Association. Welcome again back to the show.
Great to be here.
So far, so good?
Yes, so far so good.
All right, so a little bit about yourself. You have 35 years in the hospitality industry. You're the Executive Director of the Georgia Restaurant Association, representing, like you said, one of the largest industries in the state. And you're also a founding member of the GRA, past president of the GRA board. You've served as a board of directors, Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau. What do you have? You operated a small country? I mean, what else have you done? No,
Just
seriously.
about.
I was reading these resumes like, I just haven't done enough with my life. Yeah. All right. So Karen, welcome again to the show. And so tell us a little bit about the overview of the industry. What's the current status? David talked about there is the like everybody's been affected, the ebb and flow and the impact of the economy in recent years. So what's the current state of the industry?
Well, the restaurant industry nationwide continues to grow. The restaurant industry was actually the first industry to replace all the jobs lost in the Great Recession, and that happened about 2 years ago. And the growth of restaurants is up 3.8% over the pre-recession times.
Wow.
So the food service industry continues to grow. I know when I started 35 years ago, it was about 25 cents of every food dollar was spent away from home, and it's now well north of 50 cents of
Really?
every food dollar. It continues to increase. I mean, the people with dual income households, a place like Atlanta where traffic is crazy all the time, you're looking for convenience. You're looking for affordability, and quite honestly, time is money, and people like to go out and dine.
Yeah.
And pamper themselves. The growth that's expected here in Georgia is to continue at a rate of about 15.6% by 2024. So we will continue to employ thousands and thousands of people and create all the opportunity that comes off of building and opening a restaurant. When I talk about the 400,000 people in our industry, I am not talking about the people that supply them, our U.S. Foods.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the trade show people that support it. Direct in
Just
restaurants.
frontline. Wow.
Folks. And also the folks that are in the offices of the restaurant
support
companies.
staff of that. Now, what about like part-timers or seasonal? Does that include it as well?
That's
Probably?
that's
Okay.
that's all included in that.
Yeah. I mean, the first stat you mentioned, what was it? Increased 3.4%?
3.8.
3.8, almost 4% from previous recession. That may not sound like a lot, but when you multiply that across all the folks and the businesses that engage in the food service business, that's astronomical. The ripple effect of just 4% increases is
Right.
huge. So tell us about some new initiatives on the horizon for the GRA.
Well, we've been working on a huge data project that I've been sharing with folks, and we have created a database that has every restaurant in the state of Georgia listed on it, their address, telephone, most of them telephone numbers, and websites if we have it. And we've shared this information with the Georgia Department of Industry, Trade, and Tourism. And so now there's a statewide directory on Explore Georgia, which is the most visited tourism site in the state of Georgia. So people can pull up a restaurant on there, depending on what part of the state they're in, and we're going to continue to make that a lot more robust. We've also partnered with the Agriculture Department. Gary Black has been a very big supporter of our industry because in agriculture in Georgia, that's actually the first the largest private sector employer.
Okay.
And I always tell the agriculture folks, you guys grow it and we cook it and we sell it for you.
So there's really no way you become number one, right? Because the more business you do, the more they're going to be ahead. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I didn't think to ask who was number one.
And so we've established a group of chefs each year that are appointed the Georgia Grown Executive Chefs, and they serve as ambassadors around the state, working with schools, teaching the schoolroom folks how to prepare fresh Georgia produce. They do educational programs in the elementary schools, and they encourage the building of the relationship between farmers and restaurants, and which that is one of the top trends right now in the country, and certainly here in Georgia it's been embraced. It's very hard to go to a restaurant and not see what farm your chicken came from or where your peaches came from.
Well, that's the biggest craze that I've been I'm not craze, but just phenomenon, farm to table. I mean, everybody is looking for that kind of fresh factor, whatever, right, in their meal, because they're not cooking at home, maybe, right? So they want to have that experience as well. So tell us about the Atlanta Food Service Expo and how that's beneficial to you and your members in the organization.
Well, it's a great opportunity for our members to do one-stop shopping, because along with all of the different vendors that will be there and the educational programs for our operators, we will also be hosting ServSafe classes. And
Pardon me, what was that?
ServSafe.
Not surfing like at the beach.
No, not surfing.
Serving
no
like, like your server at the restaurant. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
In Georgia, every food service establishment is required to have a certified manager in that restaurant, someone who is certified in food service safety. And we are the affiliate of the National Restaurant Association that represents ServSafe, which is the most widely known certification program in the United States. It's actually international now. And so we will be conducting classes. There'll be a test being proctored in 5 different languages.
At the expo?
At the expo,
wow.
Yes. And as well as ServSafe alcohol, which a lot of our members put their servers and their bartenders through so that they understand how to serve alcohol responsibly. And then one of the events that we're looking forward to is we are having our chairman's reception, which is open to all restaurateurs with their badge, and it's going to be on Monday night, starting at 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and we're going to be over, one of our board members is with the group that owns Ventanas. Wow. And so we're going to have that marvelous space overlooking Centennial Olympic Park. We're going to have nice libations and food for our members, and so we encourage everybody to come down and join us for that. And there's more information on the website. You just need to register, but your show badge will get you in. And our website is garestaurants.org.
With an S.
With an S.
Okay. And that reception now, Karen, you're just kind of bragging there or whatever, right? So now I was thinking I'm not even in the business and I'd like to, it sounds like a great event to attend that reception. So so now this training, the ServSafe, is that those classes are fees for that certification? Does someone become certified in that? Or
yes, there is a fee associated with that, but folks that are our members get a 30% discount off those prices.
I'm telling you, I think you may have the best deal in town for restaurant associations in Georgia.
Well, we are the only official restaurant association in the state.
Well, thank God we got a good one here in Georgia, it sounds like. So, Karen, we appreciate your time. We'll circle back around to you as well. And you mentioned how folks get in touch with you. We'll post that on the website as well. So Thanks again, and stay tuned for more Q&A with Karen here. So up next, we have representative from U.S. Foods. We chatted with just briefly, Josh, and help me with your last name?
Brass.
Brass. Okay. Is that with one S? Yeah.
2 S's.
Yeah, no, just mess with you.
Yeah.
All right. So, Josh, how long have you been with U.S. Foods?
I've been with U.S. for about 10 years.
Okay. And so right off the top here, so what do y'all see as being involved in the expo and what exhibiting at the food service? What's in it for y'all, or what is that? I guess were you guys there last year? Or
Yeah,
is this
we
your
were
first
there
year?
last year, and we're really excited to partner up with the GRA and all the local groups that support the restaurant industry, and it's such a tough industry to make a living in, especially now. I mean, you're talking long hours and low margins. And so it's very important for us just to kind of be a part of that, just to provide support. And also it's about relationships, face to face, like we were talking about earlier, being able to taste the food and touch the products and stuff like that. And that's what it's all about for us. So we like to be a part of it just to support the local business, to support the chef and the restaurant owner.
And we're working on a real estate show, and obviously the 3 rules in real estate are
Location.
I think in restaurants it's margins, right?
Well, not so much.
Is it still location?
Yeah. If you don't have the location, you can't get the margin.
Well, unless you have that hole in the wall that everybody wants to go to, whatever. Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so that helps in furthering your business as being associated with the expo and all the connections and also people getting a chance to kind of meet and have conversations with you and get the latest because it's great to have a phone call or an email, but you just can't replace that in-person conversation.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, we want to support.
Yeah.
We want to support, but not only by product, but also by tools and technology and training. We have a Serve Safe class this morning in our division. So there's so much support needed for this community that we just want to be a part of that, and it's very important to us. I mean, if our customers aren't successful, then we're not successful.
Yeah, and a lot. That's a good observation. It seems like there's a term called the BFO. I don't know if you all ever heard of this. It's called the blinding flash of the obvious. But a lot of businesses, they kind of just live on this little island in this bubble, and they're like, we're rocking and rolling. But yeah, if the customers or the people that are doing business with you, if they're not successful, then yeah, you're up a creek. So, but meanwhile, talk about trends in the industry and shaping the future, the food service, and what's your own experience with your restaurant clients?
Yeah, it's been mentioned a little bit today already, but our trends we see is people care about what they eat and what they put in their bodies now. So the consumer, relates that to the chef and to the restaurant owner, and so they grab a hold of that. Yeah. So it's our job to kind of look and source and provide those products for what the chef wants. So we're kind of in the middle of that. We're doing we just came out with a pole and line caught tuna, which is a sustainable way of fishing. So it's not big nets, and so from sustainability we see local products we're seeing out there, and really the farm to table movement is certainly huge in Atlanta. I mean, if you go out to Oregon or if you go out to California, I mean, it's massive. I mean, that's all they do. So to see those trends come here it's exciting to be able to support not only the restaurant folks but the farmers too. I mean, you can go out and get Georgia olive oil. Who would have thought? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
Now, your Food Fanatics movement, tell us about that. It's created a lot of buzz from what I understand, and there's more about it in the magazine. And
yeah, it's a publication that we came out with, and I brought a copy. You can pass around. This is the brand new, and it's so new I haven't even looked through it yet. But the cool thing about it is it's an industry publication. It's not a publication about U.S. Foods. It's not a U.S. Foods advertisement. So we have chefs from all across the country. We have local trends from all across the country. And it's really just an awesome publication and fun to read for everybody.
Well, I'm just kind of browsing through it right now, and it's very impressive, and the food looks spectacular. Once again, no food brought in on the restaurant radio show, but that's okay. Yeah.
Well, you need to invite a chef next time.
I know. There you go. Exactly. Yeah, I was just giving you all a hard time. All right. So now talk about sustainable products, and that's a major focus with U.S. Foods. And tell us more about menu items. Can you give us a couple of ideas or?
Yeah, sure. I mentioned the pole and line caught tuna before, something we had to go out and source from boats and pack it and make sure it's sustainable. We also have a new baby heirloom tomato that comes in sustainable packaging. It's grown in a hothouse. So the way that product is manufactured, the way it's packaged really benefits not only the manufacturer but also the end user. And at the end of the day, it's less waste, on the earth, quite frankly.
Right.
You know, and so that's a great thing. So we're always looking for that. One of the hard things to do is to be able to bring products that support the entire economy and the entire base. Because from a broadline distribution perspective, the number of customers we have to source with that in mind. So sometimes it's difficult to be able to source the quantity of product, you know, from a local farmer to be able to support the entire restaurant industry.
And to create that that magic medium of pricing, delivery, the consumer willing to pay. You know,
There's also a food safety aspect you have to think about.
And I think maybe the average consumer doesn't, when they see a price on a menu, they don't realize everything that's behind that to actually bring that to the table. And it's, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it translates all the way from the cost of feed, you know, for a chicken or for a farm-raised animal. I mean, you know, the cost of gas to distribute the product, to bring it to our warehouse, you know, to bring it from our warehouse out to the customer. So it's
just endless. Yeah, I remember a while back I was at Starbucks and they showed, like on the wall, the process of, you know, from the grower, that bean, until it ends up in your cup. And it's just like, you know, it looks like it's traveled around the world 9 times, whatever, just to end up, you know, with a black cup of coffee or whatever. Yeah. So Josh, tell us, for our listeners, which are industry, you know, insiders, right? Because it's not for the consumer per se, but you know, how they get in touch with, find out more about, you know, reaching y'all locally here.
Yeah, we have a website, usfoods.com, and so you can go and find the Atlanta division and search there. I mean, we have over 100 people, over 100 salespeople out on the street.
Wow.
So hopefully they're walking into all.
And I see your trucks all the time,
chefs,
whatever, too. Yeah. So
so the trucks are out there, but really the website is the best way to find out about the Food Fanatics program, to find out about our new innovative products, which are scoop launches that we have 3 times a year. We're bringing 20 to 30 new items to the industry. So a lot of that excitement, a lot of that buzz, and a lot of the support is out on the website.
So you recommend going to the website rather than flagging down one of the trucks on the highway there?
Yeah, well, not on Peachtree Street.
Yeah, exactly. Just be careful. Yeah. Well, thanks for being here, Josh, and we'll circle back around with our roundtable discussion, maybe some follow-up questions with you as well. And up next, we have our next guest joining us in the studio is Mark Haiti. And Mark, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit about, you're going to talk on 2 topics of interest. One, what you mentioned at the beginning of the show, the actual restaurant, and then a technology, mobile technology. So on the restaurant side, it's, how do you pronounce that?
It's pronounced taqueria.
Taqueria.
It's a play on a Mexican and Korean fusion, so spelled like Korea, with
right,
a TA in front of it.
Yeah, because I'm hearing taco when I say that, but yeah, you can't. Then
we got a few tacos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and this was developed Hancock
Taqueria is
right.
My business partner Thomas Lee, who's
right.
a chef here in Atlanta. Has been in Atlanta for many years. Was a head chef at Buckhead Diner. Has been around many parts. Created a concept of really taking Korean food and Mexican food, putting it together, similar to street food in L.A.,
right.
Some other concepts, and really brought it to Atlanta about 5 years ago. Had great success there. Basically worked with him to help him open a location in Midtown. We've been there 3 years, and we just opened our Dunwoody location up on Chamblee-Dunwoody Road.
Okay.
And that's been great success. We've sold, if you're looking for tacos, we sold 11,000 tacos in the last 3 weeks.
Oh, my gosh. Are there any left?
But there's plenty.
Yeah, you never run out of
U.S.
tacos.
Foods will keep bringing us more stuff,
Nice.
and we'll keep making tacos.
Nice. And then on your, just tee up your second offering here and expansion is Sift It, which is the mobile technology. Talk to us about that.
Sure. So Sift It really is a byproduct of about 20 years of my experience being in restaurant technology, and then the last 3 or so years having a restaurant, and realizing that I didn't know as much about restaurants as I thought I did when I was selling technology to them.
Right,
so one of the things that I and some of my business partners found is that independent restaurants, we've talked about small businesses have a lot of challenges. One of those challenges is how they operate and manage professionally the restaurant. They don't have large staffs. They don't have corporate staffs. So as an independent restaurant operator, trying to do the basics and do them well and have the information to improve is very difficult. So the part of the process we're trying to help with is how restaurants source their products, whether it's food, alcohol, ultimately other business services, and how they manage the relationships with their suppliers, and do that in a very simple and efficient way The state of practice in much of the industry today for independent restaurants is a very manual, time-consuming process with multiple suppliers, phone calls, emails, faxes. Very little data is captured, therefore very little reporting and intelligence is gleaned, and it's hard for an operator to improve the business. They're so busy operating and trying to process the transactions, they don't have time to sit back and understand what's happening and why. So, for example, food costs increasing, how that's impacting their margins, what part of their menu they might want to look for increasing prices, areas they might want to source differently, et cetera. So we're just trying to provide a basic tool that helps the restaurants get a handle on what they do.
All right. So how do you split your time between these two enterprises?
Well, I'm lucky to have a great restaurant operating partner. So Thomas runs the restaurants. I basically help as needed. I spend the majority of my time with Sifted and with other restaurants, understanding their needs and helping them improve their business.
And then the common theme, obviously, here bringing all these folks together is the expo. So talk to us about, what's in it for you, I guess, if you will, for exhibiting at the expo. What are you?
Yeah,
what's
sure.
your takeaway?
So we participated last year in the
Okay.
in the first expo and found it to be a good experience to, we were actually just launching Sifted as a business. So it was a great platform for us to get our name out there and really to build our brand. And for us, we work both with suppliers and restaurants. So our mission is to really help connect them. And just like the expo helps bring them together on the front end, where you help a restaurant find suppliers and products and things they might be interested in, we take that to the next step and try to keep them together and help them have an efficient relationship and help automate the transaction. So it's a great place for us to build a better relationship with suppliers, to get exposure to restaurants, and really to understand the trends in the industry so we can be relevant and help move things forward for both parties, both the suppliers and the restaurants, and help that relationship.
Yeah, so by 10, you can be on both sides of the table, right, with your two, offerings, your interest in what's going on in the industry from your own restaurant, both of your restaurants, and obviously from the technology. So last year you attended, you was kind of startup, you were pre-revenue at that time, and now you're just making buku bucks or whatever with the...
We're making bucks. I don't know about buku.
Yeah, whatever that amount is. Yeah, it always sounds better. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, so from the restaurateur viewpoint, what do you expect to gain again from attending the expo?
Yeah, I think it's just learning. It's as a restaurant operator, there's just no time to think a lot of times, right? You're reacting to what comes in the front door, what person didn't get staffed that didn't come in, we could go on and on.
Yeah, we're getting some noddings of heads here, yeah.
So I think the key thing as a restaurant operator, and the thing I would recommend to other restaurant operators, is take a little extra time to save a lot of time down the road. And it's hard to do in the heat of the moment, but if you can take a little time to attend a conference, to attend a training session, to pick up a few nuggets of information that are going to help you when you get back to the restaurant, that's going to help your staff be better, it's going to help you manage and be a better manager, that's critical. And so it's hard to step away from the restaurant, but a once-a-year opportunity to go into a room with all the people you want to talk to that you don't want them running into your restaurant every day selling to you. You'd rather just hit it in one
all
spot.
at once, yeah.
So spend a little time today, save a lot of time tomorrow would be how I look at it from a restaurant.
You can kind of shop and kick the tires or whatever, and then find out that's something I want to spend a little bit more energy towards or whatever, right, and apply. Speaking of staff, so who else would attend within y'all's restaurants or organizations an expo like this, beyond obviously yourself and maybe your partner, obviously?
Yeah, I think the managers, to the extent we can get them out of the restaurant
that's
for
the challenge,
hours,
right? Yeah.
Without things falling apart. It's good for them because, as Karen talked about, the ServSafe training, other opportunities for them to learn and build their skills. The other thing that's very difficult as an independent operator is to provide training to your staff.
Yeah.
You kind of throw them into battle, hope they do it well, give them some mentoring, but having a place to give them some training affordably is a great privilege that restaurants should take advantage of.
Throwing them in, is that what they call in the weeds or whatever?
In the weeds.
Is that, they still use that? When I was a server back in the day, yeah.
They use it every day, I think,
Nice.
in
But,
our industry.
Yeah, and just to finish on that thought, before we go to our next guest, so that is great with a 2-day event, right? So you can kind of tag team, or you can go and then divide and conquer, right? So, I think that would be a good strategy.
Yeah, there's definitely you can work it out if you plan it ahead. You can shift people around and and get the coverage and have people attend.
Yeah, so long as there's no fires to put out the day of the event or whatever, right? So, okay. Well, Mark, it was a pleasure again. Thank you for being on the show, and we'll stick around for some open discussion as well. And our next guest, and rounding this segment out here today, is Archana Becker. Welcome back to the show. You've been taking some notes. How are you enjoying the show so far?
Very informative.
Yeah, right? She's making some pointers already. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get from, 11 years you mentioned in your the original restaurant, right? So what were you doing in a former life, or what brought you to that point?
When I was 11, I moved to the States with my parents, and we come from a big foodie family on both sides. Nobody went to culinary school or any of that. Everybody's different careers, but we moved here, and we moved to Georgia in '86. We've lived here ever since.
From where?
From India.
Okay.
Well, from Ohio. We lived in Ohio for 2 years.
Ohio, India? Yeah.
Yeah, India, Ohio. But, yeah, so I just couldn't believe that you could work here when I was a kid. When I was like, wow, you can work when you're 14. You can't do that in India. So I was like begging my parents to let me work. And
what's the age to work in India?
no kids work there.
Oh,
you
really?
just study.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Now people, this was 30 years ago.
Yeah,
Even now, the kids really don't work.
Huh.
It's very
That's a foreign concept to me too, because I remember as a kid I started with a paper route and then all kinds of other jobs since then.
Well, these are kids I know. I'm not saying nobody works. But as an overall culture, kids are going to school. They don't work.
That's not a bad idea. Whatever.
They go to school Saturdays as well. So, and there's tutors after school. You're not working.
Right, and that's why they do all that, and then people start working for them, whatever, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I wanted to work, so I.
Yeah, me too. So, so tell us what you again with this theme, with the expo coming up in October. What do y'all expect to gain? Were you there last year? Is this your first year? Or,
Yeah, I was there last year,
Okay.
and I go to as many shows as I can
Right.
to grow the business, because we have a catering business as well,
Oh, okay.
which is older than the restaurant, and we really like to grow that organically, but there's so much new stuff out there, so we try to educate ourselves with the restaurant and catering stuff so we can offer more to our customers, more choice.
And give us a little advertisement for your restaurant. People that where it's located, what type of obviously Indian food. You don't have tacos there, do you? Or
We have something like that, but not tacos. We are homestyle North Indian,
okay,
but the way we serve the food is a little different. It's very traditional food, but we'll do it in tapas style, or we'll do it in traditional platters. The
Right.
goal is to try a lot of stuff.
okay,
We don't have large entrees. Well, we do have that if you want it, but that's not the goal. The goal is to peruse the menu and try like 5 different things.
so it's kind of family style, or whatever. Or?
You can go by yourself and buy 3 things, and you'll still only spend like $25.
Wow.
So there's a lot of small plates. There's a lot, but they're not tiny plates.
Yeah.
But lots of choice. There's street food. There's kati rolls. There's platters. But the style is very North Indian.
Okay, and where are y'all located? What part of?
We're in Decatur on Claremont Road, near the
Okay.
VA hospital, near
Okay.
North Decatur Road, and then we're in Buckhead, right across the street from here.
Oh, really? Nice.
Shops around Lenox.
Oh, okay, cool. So we'll all go there for lunch afterwards, whatever.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Nice. You're
I
welcome.
have to go there too. So
Yeah, we'll just all
Follow me
follow you.
over there.
Exactly. We'll just all walk over there afterwards. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, so talk about. We're talking to Mark about the management team and the tie-in with the expo. What's been your experience with that, or plan, or?
Well, first, the funny thing is when I was walking into the elevator, Siftit called me. And I have an appointment with them tomorrow, but that's just interesting that you.
We can talk
didn't-
afterwards.
Yeah.
So his computer called you, whatever.
That's
Yeah. Nice.
No, the lady called to
device?
make
Oh.
an interview. And I'm like, I'm really late for a radio show. I got to go.
Nice.
So, no, I think that's a really good service, because that is half the battle, because we have so many products and
Right.
so many vendors that just getting everything checked, sometimes you don't have time because it's slammed on Sunday. You're ordering on Sunday for Monday, and it's busy. So having something that makes it easier to check pricing, like who's cheaper on butter, and
Right.
we buy so much butter and so much dairy that
Yeah.
it's good to check
Yeah.
the
'cause
pricing, because we
back
buy
to
it for
back to
3
margins.
locations.
Yeah. You got a third location now?
Our catering's a separate.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So, all the stuff. It's easy to.
Now, what about like your management team? Are you guys able to break away to attend the expo, or would you have a strategy for that, or is it obviously you'll be there?
Yeah, a lot of times if you can't get coverage, it's good to at least have one person going to get as much information as
Right, yeah.
possible,
And
then
report
sharing
back.
the information, because it's going to be hard when you've got 2 locations open all day to have everybody leave for half a day, because I don't have anybody else to cover if all of them are there.
Yeah.
So we just have to look at the program and pick, this would be good for you, this
Right.
would be good for you, and just kind of move it around.
Take good notes and bring back
Yeah.
the collateral or the propaganda, like I like to call it. If you're at a trade show, you always say, "Hey, would you take some of my propaganda?" People are like, "Oh, okay, yeah." All right, so thanks again for being here, and tell our listeners how do they find out about your restaurants and catering. And
It's bojanic.com, BHOJANIC.com. And the catering business, just so you does all kinds of international food. We do Middle Eastern sushi, we do Asian, all different kinds. So it's a separate entity.
oh, okay.
So it's not
Nice.
just Indian food.
Right. Well, thanks again for being here. We're going to start our roundtable here in just a moment with maybe some questions from the folks guests in the studio. Once again, you're listening to our pilot episode for Georgia Food and Beverage Radio. And so we do a couple more of these and see what happens. But before I forget, I'm not sure, Mark, did we mention, step up to the mic real quick and tell our listeners again, for your 2 offerings, what's the best way to reach out and get in touch?
Sure, yeah. Taqueria, it's simple. It's mytaqueria.com.
Okay.
MYTAKOREA. And Siftit is siftit.com.
I don't know. We've been tweeting or retweeting back and forth between most of the folks here in the studio. So I feel like I almost kind of know you via the internet or social media. But it's again nice to be here in the studio. So who wants to tee this off here, David? I imagine you probably have some questions for the folks. We'll kind of have maybe David and Karen kind of take it from here. Or I'm gonna nominate you our official co-host for today's show. So what's on y'all's mind with the people here, or what we may or may not have covered, to reiterate?
Having grown up around the restaurant industry, it never ceases to amaze me how hardworking the people are in this business. I remember as a kid, 5 or 6 years old, going in the back doors of kitchens, helping my folks deliver product. And always grew up around it. I had a question for Akshna. You also have been around the restaurant business most of your life. Do you think it's easier or harder these days to be in this business?
It's hard all the time for everyone, I think. Just different issues. The bigger you get, the issues are different. The smaller you are, it's like the fire is the issue. There's smaller issues, not smaller issues. The issues are every minute when you're smaller. When you're bigger, you're not dealing with the little bitty issues, but the issues are much harder to deal with that you have, like growing your business or funding, or or there's a new health law that now you got to teach 60 people in different languages, things like that.
And Karen, it seems to me that there are more laws today than there were 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ago. Are we being legislated to death in this business?
Oh, yes, we are. I think that that in the last 6 years, we have seen such increased activity by the Department of Labor and the National Labor Review Board, with coming out with rulings that could have a really significant effect on franchises. And as we all know, many restaurants are franchises. They're individually owned and operated businesses under a larger brand name. Somebody comes up with a successful concept like a Moe's, and they have that secret for success, so they sell the rights to an individual to operate a Moe's. Well, that franchisor is there for backup training, for product development, for mass scale of economy, for purchasing, to try to help keep those margins, but the parent company is not responsible for their employees. It's the local franchisor who's in your neighborhood, who is part of your community, whose kids go to your school and your church, and who gives you the gift certificates for your PTA fundraiser. Well, the NLRB has been coming after our industry. We also, I think, an issue is, as Archana alluded to before, was health code issues. There are I always say this with a little bit of irony. Our health code here in Georgia is 176 pages, but the interpretation manual is 673 pages. So there you go. And we're the Georgia Department of Public Health right now is soliciting feedback on the proposed 2014 food code to be adopted. Our health rules are based on national rules that are all scientifically based, and so we have I think I have about 400 restaurateurs and suppliers reading through the code right now and giving commentary back, and that's a big issue. And so if there's anybody out there that feels that they could give some good commentary to this proposed health code, just reach out to me at the Georgia Restaurant Association. We can help you with that. And, my primary job is to make sure that, again, our legislators hear what's going on in our restaurants and how they're being affected by ever-increasing regulations. Big issue, again, going back to labor issues. We also have the immigration issue that has been stifling business. From a high-tech standpoint as well as a low-tech standpoint, we need more people in our country to fill jobs, and we don't have that great of a growing population in our country. And I think that's maybe Mark touched a little bit, or Archana. Commodity prices. We've seen a lot of pressure on commodity prices the last couple of years with increases in fuel costs, which then causes increases in feed prices, which then cause prices to rise in poultry and in beef. And then also we've had some really bad droughts out west, and a lot of our food comes from out west. So we're glad that we have Georgia Grown now, where people are focusing more on growing food here in our state to feed our people. Again, that's a growing movement, and I know U.S. Foods is making a lot of effort to try to fill that gap. But we all know it tastes fresher, it tastes better, the closer it is to home.
Well, Karen, if I can throw in one comment. You mentioned all the costs going up in the restaurant. I think one thing that the consumer hasn't seen yet is the ripple effect of that on menu prices. Mm-hmm. In some areas there has been, but I think the consumer has been used to fairly stagnant menu prices, and it's getting to a point where it's probably not sustainable for the restaurant industry to hold prices the way they have over the last few years.
I agree. I know that the average profit margin in a restaurant is from 3 to 4%. I know that sounds that astounds probably a lot of people who think that you go into a busy restaurant and wow, they're just killing it, going home with a wheelbarrow full of gold coins. But it's far from the truth. It is a very labor-intensive business. It's 10,000 details that all come together, and you're right. There's the discounting of the recession with the Groupons and the 2-for-1s. Those are cutting so far into that margin.
Also, you don't. We were supposed to raise our prices right when the crash happened. You can't. Then you get scared to raise the prices when you were supposed to. So we didn't raise them for like 2 or 3 years after. 2 years after that, because you don't want to give the perception that the market's crashing, and even though the prices are still going up that we pay for basic, yogurt and whatever.
And that's where education comes into play too, not just from a serve safe perspective, but also of what kind of food can I source. Maybe I'm not serving beef tenderloin. Maybe I have to look at a different cut of beef to purchase. So I don't have to. So I can make a little bit more money off of that dish and offer something different to the consumer. At that sustained menu price.
Well, and Josh, isn't it true that you actually act as a consultant to a lot of small restaurant operators in terms of helping them to design a menu that will work within the price points that they're looking
absolutely.
to serve?
Yeah, that's our go-to-market strategy, is consultation. Because again, you see the cost of labor has gone up, the cost of food's gone up, it's going to continue to go up. We can't control if the farmer wants to put less head of cattle on the yard or wants to put less chickens out there or wants to plant wheat instead of corn or whatever the case may be. So the only thing we can really do is just, go out and research, give alternatives to that business owner and to the chef and say, this is what we recommend. based on trying to make it's a little bit of money for a ton of work. And the good thing about it is, the exciting thing about it, the restaurant business in general, because I've been in it since I was 15 as well, so it's just passion, and so I think this industry may be different than others. It has a huge, huge heartbeat, and so that's what keeps a lot of people going. So, and that's why I'm a part of it, and that's why it's exciting.
Well, and Karen, I think the old adage was always, 30, 30, 30, right? It's 30% labor, 30% food costs, and 30% overhead, utilities, and everything else. And if you were lucky, there was 10% there to cover the cost of capital and hopefully take some profit home at the end of the day. If that's still the case, obviously any small shift in any one of those wipes that 3 or 4% net off the board, doesn't it?
Right. Well, the statistics now are 32% food, 36% labor. So we've already, increased a significant margin there, and ever-growing taxes. As the economy continues to slowly rebound, property prices are starting to go up. I mean, buying a piece of property or leasing 3 years ago, it was an excellent opportunity. But now landlords and property owners are starting to increase prices. I think we've seen that particularly going on in New York right now with Danny Meyer closing down Union Square, his flagship restaurant. Because the rents are going up, and so we're not seeing a whole lot of that yet here in Atlanta, but it is definitely probably on its way. And we were talking a little bit earlier about legal issues, and I know that at the food show coming up, we have a lot of different education pieces on that. On our website also, for those people that are too busy to get to one of our briefings, we have been taping all of our briefings about legal issues and trend issues, and we have them available on our website. And I know that we'll be taping some of the ones at the show to put on the website, so that if your assistant manager had to put out the fire and couldn't get there, there'll be a source to be able to look at some of those conversations and lectures. And we're very fortunate at the Georgia Restaurant Association that we have a whole group of attorneys that we work with that are all specialists in restaurant and hospitality law. And all of them really feel passionate about our industry and love to help out members. So when people have questions that are fronting them, don't hesitate to give us a call, and we'll try to help steer you all in the right direction.
One of the things that I've been around associations for decades, and one of the things I think most small businesses don't pay enough attention to is the association that can assist them. Because the reality is that you take an industry like the restaurant industry, and we know that the vast majority of the industry are small business people, like ones sitting around the table here, and they don't have the time, the connections, the strength to get their voices heard, both legislatively or restrictions-wise, whatever it may be. So the association is what really can give them a voice as a small business person in making changes or getting their problems dealt with, right?
That's correct, and we do that locally. We do it statewide, and then because of the importance of our congressional delegation, we're also able to make an impact on a federal level to a certain degree.
I also Atlanta is one of the top 10 metro areas in the country, but it's also one of the top cities for restaurants, right? It's got some of the best-rated, highest-rated restaurants in the country.
That is correct. And we also have a significant portion of chef-owned and operated restaurants. In fact, I believe the statistic is much higher than any other city. And the state of Georgia is the third largest headquarters of chain restaurants in the United States. And Atlanta is actually the number one city for chain restaurants headquarters.
Yeah. All right. Actually, that was a question I was going to ask earlier when you mentioned about franchisees and part of the association. Do you know the percentages or balance, or rough numbers? Like, well, first of all, how many members do y'all have?
In the state of Georgia, there's roughly 16,000 locations, restaurant locations, and we have about 4,000 locations.
4,000 as members, 4,000
Correct.
members, yeah. So if you had to take a guess, like of those 4,000, how many are local as opposed to franchise operations or percentage-wise? Or
Our membership is roughly 50-50.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and our board of directors, of which Archana is one of our one of our board members, really shows that diversity of the industry in terms of women being on the board and the division between independent restaurateurs as well as chain restaurateurs.
And speaking of Archner, wasn't she just featured in a magazine here? She's shaking her head, but right, Karen, tell us that story, right?
Yes. If you're, since this is radio, you can't see anything. I know that every restaurateur out there has gotten their copy of this month's Bon Appetit,
Which is the Bible for the business, or one of the Bibles?
One of the Bibles, and Archana has a beautiful photograph in there. I don't know the page number, but it's a advertisement for her establishment being one of the top chefs and women chefs in our nation.
We'll put that on our YouTube channel or whatever. Yeah. So Archana,
I haven't seen.
Yeah. She's
It's
a
a
little.
great picture.
It's too big.
A little embarrassed, but that's pretty exciting news. So, I mean, you just saw that in the green room before we went on the air, right?
I have to go analyze. And then,
Pick it apart.
Pick
yeah.
it apart.
But besides the photo, I mean, that's pretty exciting. Kudos and congratulations on that, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. I have no idea what it's about, but I'm going to check it out.
I'm sure it's all good or whatever. Yeah. So closing thoughts here. We got a minute or two, and what do y'all think? Well, just we'll say a raise of hands, but we're on the radio. So what are y'all thoughts about Georgia Food and Beverage Radio? Just maybe a couple of comments.
I think this is a great idea, and
Okay.
I encourage everybody. I always say, dine out, dine often, dine Georgia.
All right, nice. Yeah, well, just closing remarks from Mr. U.S. Foods, Josh.
Yeah, it was fun to be here. I appreciate it, and really excited about the expo, and hope all the people who can get out will get out, because it's very important to have that exposure and to be able to build those partnerships.
Yeah, because you think about you're going to do something that day, right? And whatever that you think is important, you can probably do next week, whatever, right? Because this only happens once a year. So, Archana, your thoughts on Georgia Food and Beverage Radio?
I think that the number of 4,000 restaurants is really not good enough. I think everyone can benefit for joining Georgia Restaurant Association. And I don't say that because I'm on the board. I say that because it helped me a lot when I was just starting my business, the restaurant, actually. In 2003, and I joined, and I always stayed. I always went to the meetings, and I always learned something. So that is the message, that if you're not going to, when you're trying to run your business, you don't have time to research the rules. You go to the meetings, in an hour you can learn about it, or you go to the trade show, you can learn about it, and then watch out and not do that mistake. And it really, truly is helpful.
Do what you do as an expert and let the experts at the association do their thing, right? I had a comment I forgot to ask earlier. You were talking, Karen, about the this huge data project you're undertaking. That just seems like mind-boggling to collect all that raw data from every restaurant in Georgia. I mean, all the way down to like Moultrie and Tifton and Thomasville, and wow.
Yeah, there's we have 23,000 contacts in this database. And
so far. Wow. What's the timeline for that? Do y'all think to?
Well, we have the listings right now up on Georgia Explorer, but
Right.
but now it's we're going through and matching all our email contacts with the actual addresses and locations of all these restaurants.
So you're kind of sifting through all that data, right?
Correct. Yeah, I was about
that's
to
your
say
cue,
sifted,
yeah,
and,
exactly, yeah.
and
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, and then all this Convention Visitors Bureau in the state are sending out letters to all of their members asking them to look at their listing, update it, and send us any corrections to it.
Cool. So that's the holy grail or gold mine for you, right? So what are your closing thoughts here on the show, the expo, and the association? Or
Yeah, I think similar to others, kind of as I said earlier, take time now to save time later. That's how we try to run our business. That's how we try to help restaurant operators. I think that's what everyone in this room is trying to do for restaurant operators. I think the radio spot is great. I think just let me know when to be here next week, and I'll be prepared. But no, I think it's just another form of education for people interested in the industry, following the industry. It's a pretty easy way to get information quickly. So I encourage you to keep the radio program going.
Cool. Maybe we'll do Radio Expo, whatever. Yeah. So, Mark, thanks for being here again. Look forward to chatting in the future. Stephanie, wrap it up here for us. Yeah.
Yes, it's a great program, and thank you all very, very much for being here. And the program is great, another way to bring the industry together. And if we hadn't mentioned it, the expo dates are October 13th and 14th. So mark your calendar.
What day of the week is that again?
It's a Monday and Tuesday.
Okay.
So mark your calendar and come be part of the industry.
And probably pick those days because Monday is probably typically a slower day for restaurants. Everybody's nodding their head. So I learned something, I figure, yeah. Or I feel like I'm acting smarter than I am. So, Stephanie, and again, I can't say thanks enough for helping, being the instrument to kind of help put all this together and all the connections that y'all have. So, David, your closing thoughts here on the show?
Well, it's great to have a show again to bring some of these topics together. This industry is such a microcosm of small business people, and they really are working 12 hours a day at least. So any opportunity they have to be able to learn, whether it be attending the show, whether it being listening to a show, whether it being networking with their colleagues, there are new restaurants opening every day, and new people getting in this business every day. And so we want to try to help them to succeed because everybody around this table is in this same industry together trying to feed off that industry.
Cool. And like Archner was saying, I think we need another 4,000 folks to join the association, right? We'll do that before our next show. Okay, yeah.
Sounds great to me.
I figured that's, yeah. And speaking of working 12 hours, the old Zig Ziglar line in sales, right? He says you only have to be successful, only work half day, or it doesn't matter what 12 hours it is, right? All right. So Rich Casanova here for another episode of Buckhead Business Radio X. And this was our special pilot episode for the Georgia Food and Beverage Radio. Hope to see you all next time.